What's going on, y'all? It's Sam here with my co-host Mike. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show, and this is going to be part two of our episode with Mike Garcia from Ever Oak Farms. He's going to take a deep dive into his Syntropic agroforestry system.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your gloves and get your compost ready. Stepping into the ring is the perennial powerhouse, the sultan of soil, the beast of the beds, where permaculture reigns, food grows wild, community roots run deep, and yes, the garden punts hit hard. Freedom starts in the soil. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show.
All right, so yeah, Mike, show us what we got going on.
Yeah, so this is the front half of the farm. So when coming and design the farm, it's always good to understand the workflow of the farm. And just like in permaculture, we have our zones. So the front part of here, towards where the buildings are at, that's central base. That's where our walk-in, processing, nursery. The front half of the farm is where we keep all of our annual production. And then moving towards the back is our perennial. So the areas and where we also raise our livestock.
That's your chicken tractors in there?
Yep, the chicken tractors in between the alleys of the forest, and even different systems here.
Beautiful.
This was back in November before the first. We went through what,
three
big, yeah. So there was like a 191.
10.
There was two before the big freeze, which was 3 consecutive days in the 20s for us, because
Yeah.
But even different chicken systems, because we also run chickens in mobile coops. So our layers are in a fenced area in a mobile coop that we run around the farm. And then we run our broilers in chicken tractors in between the alleys of this. But going back to the annuals, we keep that where the most foot traffic is and where the most attention is needed is in the front of the farm. And it's mimicking because most annual vegetables need to be in an abundant system. These aren't plants that you're planting in an accumulation system. These are plants that are hungry and like to have a complexity and a diversity of stuff into the soil. And also you're trying to mimic like a forest clearing, because that's where also most productive annual production or annuals express themselves is when a big disturbance happened in the upper canopy and a lot more sunlight's coming to the forest floor. And that's all that organic matter gets cycled through. The conditions have altered and changed because most of our annual crops are emergent, high, and then some things that can be in that medium type strata. So they like to have a decent amount, and most of them being high strata, which they want like 80% of that sun coming through, which we can spend a whole nother conversation of talking about the stratification.
Well, basically, like high strata is full sun. Low strata plants can take more shade. Emergent species are going to be the things that come up first in a full sun area. And then the pre-emergent, what is that term?
Well, there's more simple terms of keeping stratification. And just for those who don't know, strata in Syntropy in Syntropic agroforestry or successional agroforestry is referred to the light requirement of the plant, of what they like. You kind of take consideration of the physical appearance, but it's more so of the light requirement. So there are technically, I think, and every climate is a little different of how many strata there is, because nature is not technically in a box. In the tropics, I think they identify like 16 to 18 different types of strata, versus temperate climates is going to be a lot less than that. But for simple things, 4 stratas: emergent, high, medium, and low. Emergent being full sun, like they want every bit, 100% sun is what they want. High strata, you want like 80% sun. Medium strata is like 60, and then low strata 50% and below. So the easiest thing I tell folks is like you're growing shade cloth. Some plants don't like any shade cloth, and some plants will do even better with a little bit of shade cloth. So I tell folks I grow shade cloth and I grow my frost cloth. I don't want to buy those materials, so I grow those materials. But anyways,
okay. When you do your fields, are you planting your biomass beds? So I guess you do rotate your beds. I'm just wondering, how do you adjust the shade for different crops that they go through? Is it just pruning, or do different rows? Okay. Are the rows all the same species?
For the most part, it is every line. I retrofit this in the beginning, but every line is different. But for the most part, you're just keeping a straight tall tree, like always pruning into a lollipop shape, doing a lot of high pollard. The idea is just during the winter months, like in September, October, we'll do a heavy pruning typically to allow more sun to come through. And then at that time, as the winter goes on in spring, it slowly really flushes back. So then by late spring, the idea is to have a canopy because during the summer months, we want a little bit more shade and cooler. But then during the winter months, we want more sunlight. So I will prune around September, early October to make sure there's an adequate amount of sunlight coming into the alleys there. Um, and then slowly let it go through their regrowth through the winter months because a lot of times these crops are still growing. They just are very slow because some days during the winters we're in the 80s and then we're low in the 30s. So depending on what type of winter we're having and then how wet or dry will determine. But then again, this is also all irrigated as well. And my alley cropping of the annual vegetables, I do implement a lot of the biointensive market gardening. So I am implementing low tillage to it. So it's a lot of flail mowing, and then I'll cultivate the top 1-2 inches of the soil. I'll use my BCS with the PDR on it. And that's because I use a paper pot transplanter and a direct seeder. So those tools work pretty efficiently having a slightly tilled soil. And I do top dress this with compost between heavy feeders. Typically, I have tried to keep a rotation of compost, followed by heavy feeders, followed by light feeders, followed by compost again, heavy feeder, and keep that rotation going through. So I'm always trying to, as best as I can. But sometimes it works that way and sometimes it doesn't. But at least I have a general framework what I do. And we do since we implement shallow tillage or low till in our practice, we do cultivation as well.
Is
And
is that your main strategy for like weed control in these
correct.
beds? Also, is the till?
Yeah. So the shadow
tiller.
Do
it on this size.
Yeah. Well, I also have a crew of people too that are learning and that wanted to pursue this realm. And another thing too is like we plant at a high density to form that canopy because the goal is to always keep the soil covered. So there's always a short period of time that the soil is exposed, but you do a couple cultivation and then you can eventually see like a canopy forms that covers the ground. But yeah, this is the front half of the farm. That's all annual production with perennial tree lines. The perennial tree lines, the main targets were always bananas and papayas. I figured these secondary species are great, and I feel like they complement and also how their growth habit is. There also is some moringas and some eucalyptus throughout in there, but mostly for support. The perennials, though the tree systems do feed themselves because there's other support species underneath, like canna lilies in there, and there's Napier grass and whatnot. So the tree lines always get fed. They support themselves how I have it planted. But the annual garden is always between cover crop, pasture. I'll run the layers through there during the summer months after cover cropping, and then it also gets hit with the compost we make on the farm. But yeah, as we pursue forward throughout the farm, we slowly move towards the back half of the farm where most of our perennials were previously.
Your hoop houses right here that we're passing by. So not these two, but the other ones. Are those? I mean, I know, but I'd like you to elaborate a little bit on. They are in-ground beds, and you're using the hoops for shade cloth and some kind of protection. So tell us what that's for.
Yeah, so originally I had these tunnels because I was big on growing a lot of indeterminate tomatoes and also cucumbers. But I realized indeterminate tomatoes doesn't really fit in my lifestyle or my context. I find them a pain in the ass to do. We would run double leader, lower and lean, a lot of management in it. So we would use these as trellises. At one point we did have plastic on it, but I kept the plastic off after one of the hurricanes because I'm freaking over it. Like I don't want to put this plastic up and down, and I want to move away from plastic completely. And I was done trellising and doing indeterminate tomatoes. Now we only focus growing determinate tomatoes, which are your bushing type tomatoes. And we just do the Florida weave on that. But I still keep them up because I use them as irrigation now. It's just a very expensive irrigation. But my plan is actually we are tearing down these tunnels and moving them at the lot across the street. And I'll go ahead and put landscape fabric over and get into nursery production. So these are all
Oh,
going to
okay.
become, these are all going to transition into nursery tunnels, which I'll run plastic on them and shade cloth. So just on the ease of management, we'll run landscape fabric, pallets on top. And then since there's overhead irrigation, and they'll help with the management of irrigating our nursery. So that's
So
the
they're
idea.
really like a relic from
Yeah,
your past, and you've
correct.
replaced the hoop tunnels with your agroforestry system.
Correct. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and your trees aren't going to just blow away in every hurricane. That's pretty impressive.
Yep. And they survived the freeze. A lot of them are resprouting from the base, and those moringas are growing real fast. But but essentially, these four tunnels along here, those skeletons and the relics of the past of Ever Oak, um, are moving there, and they're going to serve a different function now. But these two tunnels, they'll continue staying here. One of them is our main nursery where we'll start a lot of our seedlings and cell trays. Eventually, they get bumped up to a 4-inch pot or get 1 gallon or 3 gallon, and then they'll make their way across the street and be on that automated nursery. And then next to it, we do have we've been doing for the past 2 years an on-farm trial with the University of Florida Institute in Food and Agricultural Science on growing strawberries on the tabletop system and using more true organic methods and a more sustainable growing medium. For those who don't know, hydroponics is very input driven, tremendous amount of input and infrastructure. But typically, a lot of the mediums that they use are soilless, and it's usually like they'll use peat, but there's nothing sustainable about peat because they're being extracted by these peat from these peat bogs. They also use coconut coir. Coconut coir is sustainable, but the problem is most of the time they're being imported from Asia. Back in COVID, a lot of the or hydroponic growers couldn't get it because the world was shut down. And then the rock wool isn't really sustainable. It doesn't really break down. It's energy intensive, and I don't think you can recycle them. I could be wrong about that. But using the growing medium of compost and pine. So we farm a tremendous amount of pine here in the Southeast. And pine, it ends up being a fine pine mulch. Yeah, like pretty fine mulch, pine bark or pine mulch. And mixed with equal parts of compost. So the growing medium is literally compost and pine, and also trialing different compost because not all compost is created equal. Depending on what your feedstock is on your compost, it's going to determine the quality of your compost. So half of the troughs have farm compost, and then some of them have just straight yard waste compost from the municipality. And to seeing if there's a comparison, so it doesn't make a difference what compost you're doing. And then it's fertigated with like organic feed, like usually extracted from like pea protein and like fish emulsion and whatnot. So it's been a fun trial to do. I'm not big on hydroponic. At one point I was diving deep into it and I understand it. But I adopted it because I like the compost aspect of it. I enjoy compost, and it's cool to showcase another sustainable, not I won't say sustainable because, like I said, there's a lot of plastic that goes into it, but
you're
another
trying to find a sustainable way
hey,
to do this. Is there a way to
correct.
do it with like an aquaponics system where you're
Fertigating with that? Yeah, you might
yeah.
have to still supplement a little bit, and that's when you have to be really on top of your water chemistry.
Yeah,
But to
there's a
be
lot of
honest, I like
science that goes into that.
I'm
Actually,
always
I've
been
been
the
to
individual that's I've been hands off. Like I like hands
yeah,
off
okay.
gardening as simple as possible. Like when you got to get geeky on water chemistry and all that, I'm like, it's cool you can do it and have that control and you get these results. But I like to be passive with my growing and gardening as much as possible.
Do you soil test?
Not as often as I should. It's been 2.5 years since I've toil test. I'm definitely up for one. So it'll be cool to kind of
But
see where it's at.
I
But I
mean,
do
you
have
can
an
really
understanding.
observe
Yeah.
and, see how the plants are responding.
Yeah.
Like,
And the compost now is only used on the market garden. When we do jumpstart these systems, we do use the compost and some fertilizer. But after that, we plant enough support species that it needs to feed and service itself. So in the back half of the farm, we have 4 different systems back here. Originally this area here where the chickens are going through on, do you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So we run our poultry in between these alleys and the chicken tractors. But this system here is mostly peaches. Now, remember I mentioned in the beginning of our conversation that we planted a half acre of intensively planted peaches because this is 15 by 15 is what we planted those peaches. But peaches in Florida, and especially as a like to bring like a crop to bring to market, to be honest, is a pain in the ass.
People
um,
don't even like Florida peaches when you take them to the market to sell. They're like, that's so
they're always
small.
yeah, exactly, and if you don't thin them out, they're even smaller. But they are tasty and they're sweet. They
Oh
are
yeah, they're great.
delicious. It's just on a commercial, like you go to a market stand, you see these small peaches, and also you got to consume them fresh because they're melting varieties. So they don't hold up as well like the ones that are typically in the grocery stores, which are non-melting varieties. So as they ripen, they still stay nice and firm versus Florida peaches, as they ripen, they get even softer and softer. So they're
Huh.
meant to be as a jamming peach or a fresh eating peach versus the non-melting varieties are great for like preserving, pickling, grilling, slicing into salads and whatnot. But most of the Florida,
Grilling? Do you
yeah,
grill peaches?
you can
We're
grill
gonna need
peaches.
a Chef
Yeah.
Mike episode also.
Yeah. But yes, and also the chill hours fluctuate. Even though I have the three cultivars I have planted here are Florida Prince, Tropic Beauty, and U Up Sun, which U Up Sun needing the least amount of chill hours of 100 and chill hours, and the other two, the Florida Prince and the Tropic Beauties, needs 150 chill hours. And for those who don't know what a chill hour is, it's chill hours classify anything that's 45 degrees Fahrenheit and below is a chill hour. So since these temperate crops need to accumulate certain amount of chill hours to encourage more fruiting, and to help break through the dormancy, they've over the years bred these peaches to need low chill. But here in Central Florida, our chill hours have been fluctuating. Some years we've only had like maybe 90 and lucky to have 100. And then years like this, we're pushing almost 300 chill hours. So the huge fluctuation and also peaches coming in the peak of our productivity of our like the transition of winter into spring and it's busy. It's hard to keep up with. I rather now I focus on my perennials. It's either has to be a year-round fruiting crop or it needs to be a fruiting crop that's on the shoulder season. So either
What are
at
your main perennials though? Like your bananas and papayas, is that your main harvest from
right as a
perennial
right
crops?
for
Yeah.
now because this system to the right is avocados, lychees, and finger limes. But
Oh, finger
meanwhile,
limes.
yeah. And then this system over here was going to transition into Ponderosa lemons and mangoes. But now I'm moving away from mangoes and going to just focus on lychees and avocados because they fared pretty well with this last cold.
The
Um,
lychees did all right. That's awesome.
yeah, let's see, I probably lost about maybe 30% of my lychees and lost maybe 20% of my avocados to the chill. So they can, if you cultivate the space right and create that microclimate. And for the most part, if you look at the tags and do some research, they could take temperatures in the 20s. And it's not often that we have 3 days of temperatures in the 20s because my low, I've reached 21 degrees Fahrenheit this past freeze, and that's the lowest I've ever experienced here in Central Florida, especially here in Orlando where we're at. And then we
Oh,
went the next day was the low was 25, then 27. So 3 consecutive days in the 20s is not really normal and seeing those plants take that temperature for that, I'm like, okay, you're pretty good. And then understanding which eucalyptus did well. Eucalyptus grandis actually did extremely well. Rainbow, awful. It got cooked immediately. Lemon did okay, and Corymbia did okay. So the Eucalyptus grandis, which is rose gum, did absolutely amazing. But yeah, this system is currently peaches, which now I'm grateful there's peaches because at least it kind of makes up as I figure out like I got peaches this year and they're going to the CSA. I'm glad I haven't fully removed them, but I'm slowly transitioning. That's the idea because I've literally in this system planted my mango trees right up against the peach, and in the sense of like because peaches are also in succession, they're a secondary species. They only have a lifespan at most 10 to 15 years, 15 years if you're super lucky. but 10 years you will get a good decade out of a peach tree, since they're secondary species. So having what's going to take in that space and time, and I don't want to replant stone fruit. So, and also going back to what I was saying, I want fruit on the shoulder seasons. So coming into the grow, like late summer, early fall, that's where I want fruit. So now transitioning, focusing on having avocados comes in at that time. Citrus, for the most part, it's pretty easy, and you could kind of pick it throughout the year. Same thing with not throughout the year, but through the main growing season. Papaya and bananas pretty much year round. But eventually the idea is bananas transition out and then those climax species take over. So for instance, this line here is lychees. Eventually you won't see bananas. You'll see lychees come in. But for now, the bananas is holding that space and time, chopping and dropping and building up the soil, keeping and nurturing the plants. And it'll slowly dwindle out. Like after every so many years, like I'll start removing bananas out there, and not physically removing, just hammering it out of the system, saying, "Hey, you completed your function. You're now, I'm letting room for a higher successional species to come in and occupy that space," because bananas and papayas are also secondary species, lifespan 2 to 5 years, 6 years at most. So they're only there. And meanwhile, while those, I'm waiting for these 3 gallon fruit trees to get established and grow, which is about 5 years till they really come to a great maturity or a decent maturity that you're getting a somewhat reasonable yield. I'm harvesting bananas and papayas the whole time. And meanwhile, they're enhancing and creating the complexity of those systems.
So you focus mostly on small trees. You said 3 gallon. Is that typical for what you're doing?
Yeah, just because the cost and the efficiency of it. You can
I love
buy,
small trees.
I
Are they
love them.
grafted mostly?
Yeah, I buy
Okay.
grafted trees. Yeah, or lychees are technically they're always propagated through air layering. But for the most part,
Huh.
they're either air layered or grafted varieties. Um, so yeah, and yeah, I don't know what else to talk.
And
So,
you
but
said
yeah,
like 5 years though before you expect to see some reasonable production from them.
yeah,
Um,
and at this place, it's some of them got set back a bit, so they got pruned hard. But typically, if we had regular seasons ahead, it would be about 5 to 6 years that you can kind of get something decent starting to come into fruition. But and another beautiful thing going back about agroforestry and doing a lot of the successional planting of like land is expensive, and if you want to have a viable business too, like how can you fully maximize your yield and your profits off a small acreage? Because if I just had this peaches, I'm only collecting and harvesting peaches 4 weeks out of the whole entire year. Other than that, I'm just maintaining it. But meanwhile, now I got peaches 4 times out of the years. I'm harvesting bananas throughout the years. I'm harvesting chickens 9 months out of the year. Um, I'm also we all seed bomb squash underneath there. I'm harvesting squash at times through the system when I have a heavy reset and there's more sunlight coming in, and that disturbance happens in there. I'll go ahead and start planting certain crops behind that. But
so
yeah, man.
I mean, you've showed us your diversity and you've talked about how crazy some of the weather has been for you. Have you
Yeah.
ever had a season of just full crop loss?
No, because there's always going to be something thriving, and that's the idea. Because
That's
even
amazing.
during the winter months, yeah, imagine if I was just a papaya banana farmer, man, I'm set back for a while. But I grow veggies, and the veggies didn't mind the freeze because I grow the herbs, the greens, and that can handle those temperatures. Um, so and then I also still have poultry as well, so I'm still feeding and I'm still eating. Um,
That's
and
incredible.
then but if I was just a banana papaya farmer, then yeah, that would suck. So, and then I'm
You're
out.
a
And then
peach
if I was
farmer.
yeah, or if a peach farmer, I would have been good this year because we got a good amount of chill hours. But yeah, man, I don't know how much more you want to go or what little
Oh, I
details
got a
you
bunch of
want.
questions for you, Mike.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
Mike, we
Can
have our
you
covered.
can you
Yeah.
yeah, let's see. Pause the video at about 15 seconds here.
Okay, in
I think
15
that's
seconds.
it.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, right here. You're here. It's a good shot. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Pause around. Okay. Um, I've got an entrepreneurial mind and I need to know how systems work in order for me to figure out if this is something I can do or want to do. And if anyone else is watching, this might be insightful for them too. Mike, I'm just gonna bunch of questions. You could choose to answer them or not, because I don't want to get too
Yeah.
much into your personal business. Do you live on property?
I do live on property. Yep.
Okay.
I'm a lease property and I rent on here. So I
Okay.
have an amazing relationship with my landlord. So this is another thing it's a relational thing.
For
And that's
sure.
where I'm big about. I'm all about relations. That's the highest form of equity that I love is having relationship with people and having these strong bonds and with folks and a strong community network. But yeah, my landlord is also in a very unique position as well, and it's just a mutual thing. So that's something to be mindful when I tell folks, like if you go on lease land, you have to be clear with your intentions on both parties and have clear communication on both ends, to make this to have something like this work. Um,
Sure. Of the 3 acres, how much are you actually utilizing?
it's about 2.5.
Okay. So like looking at this photo here, we see down to the lower right, it looks like there's land that's cleared out for future production, or is that
So
someone else's land
someone
on the
else's
right?
land. I
Okay.
have this to the right. This it's somebody else's land. I have this long pizza wedge. And to give a perspective, this front half of the farm of productivity is a half acre.
Okay.
So a half acre, and then I have 4 market garden blocks here, and there's 4, 8, 12, 16. So 16 times 4, that's what, 64,
64. Yeah.
64 market garden beds, 50
Excellent.
foot market garden beds. And then I have these multiple tree lines in between. So, and
Awesome.
then on the outside here, since you still need accessibility, access road, I didn't have enough room for trees. So I did a sugarcane windbreak.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Now, up in the top left of this photo, is that a different property as well?
correct. That's a different property.
Okay.
So
So
how the layout, yeah,
they're big trees there and they're greenhouses, that's someone else's property.
correct. They got a line of bamboo, privacy bamboo line going down. They're pretty much homesteaders. He likes to tinker around. So
Okay. Are they
You're in
like
good
the
company.
are they like the neighbors next to the Griswold's house when it's like there's no point in me putting up Christmas lights because these guys have their whole house for Christmas lights? So
yeah,
is that the relationship with those guys?
no, they're good. We're good with them. Yeah, we have a good relationship. Yeah, our kids are around the same age, so they all hang out and play. But
Cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
but they got some cool structure there, but not. I'm the only one on this property that's or in this neighborhood that we're located, that's producing commercial, like to produce product for a market. Um, like yeah, my neighbor next to me does do a little bit towards market, but not on a consistent basis because yeah, that's a whole nother.
You mentioned you have interns and apprentices. Do you have any employees?
No, no employees. Right now, my goal is next year to start employing. For the past 7 years of building, we're on our seventh growing season, which will be ending here in June, wrapping up season 7. I've always been the one in the daily ins and daily outs, and operating and making this farm work. Now I'm trying to grow beyond this 3 acres. I want to have more food systems throughout Central Florida, and I'm also looking to expand to more land. So I'm actually been leaning up our farm and making it more manageable so I can actually start hiring, bringing people to work this farm, but still meanwhile offering an apprenticeship program so people can get hands-on learning experience. I just wanted to cultivate something that I wish I had going through my journey, that I could have spent a season being here in Orlando and smack down in the city. Like you can have your regular job, like, and then one day out of the week, I required my apprentices to at least put 1 7 hour day a week. And we work, the farm operates on Tuesday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I try to really keep my work and be disciplined to have my work done within those time. So right now we're in the process of leaning our whole entire operation. I'm trying to cut out waste, cut out all the obstacles, and systematize and standardize our whole entire operation. My goal is to eventually have a farm manager to keep this up and going. and then have two hands, and then continue with the interns and apprentice and have that education, because I think that's more valuable than anything. Most people try to find a school to do this. There's no school out there that's going to really teach you the ins and outs of how to do small scale agriculture, especially this deep into agroecology,
Sure.
and to make these complex farm ecosystems. Um, and yeah, so that's where we're currently at. So right now
Okay.
it is free labor, but I don't want to say free because it's a mutual thing of like you're getting hands-on learning experience. I'm sharing my principles and techniques and practices. You're learning. You also get fed from the farm as
It's
well.
reciprocity. You're giving to
Yeah.
them, they're giving back to you. How many
Yeah.
people normally do you have, like, on a normal week, how many people do you have come out and help?
So I would say it varies each week. But I say on average, there's usually about, I want to say 8 to 10 folks a week,
Oh, okay.
each put in 7 hours. So it's like if you say it's the equivalent of having almost two full-time employee, or like one full-time and one super part-time, or not super part-time, but you're looking at about
It's
70, 80.
part-time plus.
Yeah, to part-time plus. Yeah, because you're looking at about maybe 70 labor hours that I get, but among 8 to 10 people that
Right.
I'm getting these labor hours from. And which is always my goal, because my goal is to keep this farm operating around no more than 100 labor hours a week. And that fluctuates. Some time of the years, like you're maybe just needing 60, and then some years it's some time of the years it's like for a short period you're at 120. But on the most part, this farm should be able to operate with two full-times, one part-time, and then just having a few apprentices and interns to kind of assist on the day in, day out. But it does take work, and some of them do know that and they appreciate that, because there's times I'm explaining the task, teaching the techniques, how to go about, and I'm almost done with it. And so they understand, like, I've put in my time and work here. They're learning, and I'm super patient and give them the time to be able to learn and express and messed up or have these small failures, and to be able to guide them. And I also do help them on the side if they do need other extra work. If I have one intern that's starting an urban farm already on the east side of town. He's ready going to market, to the farmer's market. I have someone else in the group that's ready starting their small urban garden, and they also help contribute, and they also manage other community gardens in and around. So it's cool seeing that the people that are on my team and on my intern, they're starting to kind of get their hands on in the community, which is the goal. I'm not here to be a gatekeeping any information. I'm as open source as much as possible. I think it's important to have systems like this in every level. I tell folks the best thing to start off is grow food in your backyard and your patio or whatnot. And then whatever you can grow yourself, support a local farm. And whatever that local farm can't support, find the next farm beyond that. And then you slowly work your way up in the region if you really want to eat local and fully sustainable. And so that's the goal, is to have more of these local food systems, and just keep giving people the tools and resources they need to jumpstart these systems. And then hopefully they learn and evolve and find their own systems and flows. I'm very heavily influenced by the culinary realm and culture and kitchen culture. It's common for a lot of young chefs and cooks to go saging. Sajin is just like a fancy way of saying an apprenticeship. You find a chef that you really valued his cuisine, his techniques, and his method, and you go there. And sometimes they're paid Saj, sometimes they're not, but you go there with the intention to learn, and you do the most minute things. You try to put as much time there, and then eventually you learn that, and you go Sajin another chef. Well, let's start Sajing under farmers and jump around with different farmers, pick up these practices and techniques, and then eventually you can settle into your community or your region, and then start to develop these food systems. Because at the end of the day, this is an expression of myself. I don't ever see anyone fully doing this to the T that I do, but there's still going to be influence, and there still might have some of my flair influence into them, but they're going to have their own flow and expression. They might resonate with certain other plants and other trees, or their concept might be different. Maybe they're more into they'll design and do food system and agroforestry systems that are around herbal medicine. Some might be more passionate on growing fruits, or some greens, or some just on livestock. Once you understand principles, practices, and techniques, and be able to navigate your context and how to make decisions around your context, and that's what I try to teach. It's not only the growing aspect; it's the business aspect of the farm, and also how to navigate through context and to be able to go through some of these restrictions or um these limitations of whatever your context may be. Like, hey, I only have this much land space, what can I do? Well, how much money do you want to make with it? Well, if you want to make this much, then you're going to have to focus on this crop. But if you only need to make this much, then you can focus on this. Or how much time do you have to put into labor or work into it? And that should dictate what type of crop. So but yeah, I just probably covered and dropped a lot of
Yeah,
little
no, that's
insights
great.
there. Yeah.
Mike, we very much appreciate your time, and
Yeah.
I know Sam's been out there several times. I'm gonna have to make a trip
Yeah,
out
yes.
soon.
It'll be awesome to
Um,
have y'all out here
Do a
together.
live episode.
yeah,
That's what we
yeah,
Yeah,
need.
we could totally do a live walkthrough. I think that would be awesome because it's one thing sitting on here talking about it, showing videos of it, but this is a living system. It does not look like this now. And we're in post freeze, so you can see a huge disturbance that's happened and the reset and the bounce back from it, and just to be in the physical of it, of feeling these systems around. So it's photos and pictures never really fully justifies it.
for sure.
Yeah, so being here in the physical and feeling it and being on the land, really, you got a good taste for it. So
Yeah, I think we definitely should. If anybody else wanted
yeah,
to come check out the farm, Mike,
yeah.
what should they do? Is there a way that they can come volunteer to be one of your, your sous chef?
I always send an email. I'm willing to kind of tinker what it is, but for the most part, we'll announce when we open up an apprenticeship program again, and if we take on more folks. If you follow our newsletter, us on Instagram, I will be open. I'll be starting to do monthly farm tours eventually, and I'm also going to open up and look into doing like quarterly or monthly volunteer events, because we get so many people reaching out, hey, I would love to volunteer at least one day and look. And it's challenging, and I try to be respectful, and I love that people are willing to put in their time, but it also takes a lot of time and energy for me to learn, to teach these, and to tell someone to do a folk or to do a task. And so I'm looking to eventually having agroforestry volunteer days. And I think it's a beautiful thing to do because it gets the community involved and people engage, and people love getting their hands dirty and getting connected to earth and to the earth. And so to be able to cultivate that time and space with the intention, like, hey, we're going to do a community agroforestry planting event or a management event or weeding event, because this farm also reflects, I want it to reflect that, because if you go through these plant lines, it's a community of plants, of diversity of different expressions, um different functions, different whatever. And so it's nice to have our agroforestry system really reflect our actual community and the physical of that, the people aspect
Absolutely.
of it. Because I a lot
Yeah.
of the, going back to the permaculture, people care, earth care, and what, fair trade or
Yeah, fair share. Yeah,
fair,
you're
yeah. I'm
everything, it's top down, you're
correct.
emulating the community in your farm, showing people what's possible. I think that's amazing. And I thank you so much for coming on tonight,
Yeah.
Mike, and telling us about what you do. I can't wait to
Yeah.
dive more into it. And I hope, somebody out there is inspired and is going to come check it out.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, if you're not here, we have our farm stand open every night, every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You're always more than welcome to just walk the farm and see what we got growing. Other than that, if you're looking for more information or get a full tour, that's usually a special request, or I'll open up a special event. But yeah, we're open to the public every Saturday until June 13th. And then we're
Awesome.
open
So
again in October.
We're
So
gonna get kicked off soon, Mike. So I
yeah,
yeah.
appreciate it.